We start with CBS 2 investigator Dave Savini with a bombshell report on Sterigenics and what the public doesn't know.
Other hand, buddy.
To say Matt Haller is a fighter is an understatement.
So you were 195.
I was 195.
Now
I'm 120.
120 pounds.
Yeah.
The 45-year-old has been battling stage 4 stomach cancer for the last year and a half.
It used to be a nice bicep there. Now it's just a scrawny mass.
He was healthy, played hockey, and skied mountains, and loved his career at ESPN in sales.
I had a future that, had success written on it, and now I have no future.
Now he's fighting to stay alive long enough to make a few more memories with his greatest loves, his wife Colleen and his son Cullen, who just turned 4. But there's another fight going on over this medical supply sterilization company, Sterigenics.
You shut them down immediately and get them out of our town. We don't want you here anymore.
They fear a dangerous gas used in the sterilization process and spewed into the air, called ethylene oxide, is what led to cancers in their neighborhoods.
To just think that, wake up one day and that this company could have been literally behind my death is it's shocking. It's utterly shocking.
It's hard because I work there. It's hard to sleep at night.
Tonight, former Sterigenics employees break their silence to CBS 2, alleging the company ordered workers to dump toxic chemicals directly into the public sewer system and covered up just how much they emitted into the air.
So you believe that company knowingly sent that chemical out into the atmosphere, knowingly endangering the lives of people?
Yeah, I firmly believe that.
Year after year?
Yes.
According to the EPA, the chemical is linked to several cancers. The CBS 2 investigators obtained documents showing the company was even warned about the risk by the Illinois EPA 35 years ago. One of those cancers is stomach cancer.
God forbid they're doing what they say that what we understand they're doing, and they're poisoning this community. Then they need to pay for what they've done. And I don't mean monetarily. People should be going to jail.
We'll wash right into the drain pit, which went out to the sewer system.
Former workers who don't want to be identified and past employees who gave these sworn declarations now are revealing inside secrets. They accuse the company of taking excess ethylene oxide and improperly dumping it.
They would have us hose it down, scrub it out, and then squeegee it right into the drainage pits.
That was just washed also into the public sewer system.
Yes.
And they say plant supervisors would take ethylene oxide's byproduct, ethylene glycol, what's found in antifreeze, and dump that too into public sewers.
And in doing so, they did it for profit?
Agreed.
Former workers say another way to avoid shutdowns, they manipulated alarm systems meant to warn workers when they were overexposed.
So in essence, they kind of rigged the system.
Absolutely.
So you worked with people who died of cancer?
Yeah.
And even when the warning monitors did go off, they say work still didn't stop. In this statement, a forklift operator said there were frequent warnings, but he was repeatedly told to ignore it, not talk about it, just deal with it, or don't work there. It says he was told to just open the doors and let the gas out.
Those who weren't using the mask would have to evacuate the area. However, it happened so many times, you would just blow it off. Be like, just leave the doors open and it'll clear out.
You believe they were sending more of this stuff out their stacks, out their side vents, out their doors than they ever reported to the EPA.
Definitely.
And they say dangerous vapors continue to pour out after products were sterilized while they sat in ventilation rooms called aeration rooms. The process is called off-gassing. Workers said doors to those rooms were often left open, and when their exposure got high, workers were told to open outside doors to get rid of it.
They put not only workers at jeopardy, but the public at jeopardy.
Absolutely.
There's not a day that goes by that I'm not in pain.
Catherine Howard has lived 7 blocks from Sterigenics since 2002. She, like Haller, who lived about a mile away, have stomach cancer.
My fear is that it is inside of each of my children, just waiting.
She blames the company for her cancer and the EPA too.
They're the ones that are regulating. They're the ones that are giving them the operating permits.
The EPA has known the dangers for decades and even warned the company back in 1984 about the cancer risks. Then, operating as Griffith Laboratories, the company wanted to add more sterilization chambers. The EPA said the company's 40 tons of ethylene oxide already being released was several magnitudes higher than desirable, and warned they were releasing it at levels 14 times to 445 times the acceptable levels in a 1-mile radius around the plant.
They knew. They had to have known.
What did the EPA do? They let them expand anyway.
They're the ones who are, responsible for protecting the residents.
The company, also in 1984, was ordered by the Illinois EPA to do ambient air testing for ethylene oxide and provide a report a year later. The CBS 2 investigators requested those records. The EPA said they don't have them.
Do you feel like the government failed you and everyone else?
Whether they did it intentionally or unintentionally, they failed us.
Was there any agency that they feared?
No.
Former workers say state and federal EPA oversight was a joke.
I don't think they really cared. They had a lot of fronts.
The EPA even allowed the company to do its own emission testing and reporting, even though in 2002 the company was accused by the U.S. EPA of failing to install monitoring systems and failing to keep emission records.
The lady that runs that place now came from the EPA.
He's talking about Sterigenics CEO Kathleen Hoffman.
We, too, were surprised with the results and are trying to work with the agencies to address these issues.
She declined to be interviewed about the new allegations, but there's even more. These workers say before Sterigenics added a second warehouse across the street, there were 3 more places used for off-gassing. This yellow warehouse a few blocks away and 2 others in Burr Ridge. All 3 places are near homes. We could find no record those places were ever inspected by the EPA.
If that's what went on, then hell isn't hot enough for them.
Sean Collins, one of 30 attorneys working together to sue Sterigenics on behalf of people with illnesses tied to ethylene oxide exposure, says the cancer risk is 64 times higher around the plant.
If a company is falsifying reports, disregarding reports, operating in a way that is not allowed by law, it's breaking the law.
What happened to workers who complained about safety?
They got canned.
Was it your birthday? Did you just have a birthday?
Yeah. I want to know the truth. I want to make sure that my son is going to be okay.
My son's 4 years old, and you really wonder, is he going to remember me? I'm not going to be able to teach him how to play hockey, and, so much loss. When you look forward, you just see loss.
There are 20,000 people in several schools in that 1-mile radius. Sterigenics says it followed regulations and denies it dumped or emitted illegally and has no evidence to support any rigging of monitors to protect worker safety. They say they never off-gassed at any other warehouse and will defend itself in court. The Illinois EPA takes the allegations we uncovered seriously and will fully investigate. The governor's office is also watching, and they say they have new leadership there now at the EPA.
Excellent reporting, Dave. Thank you.
Live from the CBS 2 Broadcast Center in Chicago, this is CBS 2 News at 10.
Major developments in the CBS 2 investigation into Sterigenics. Good evening. I'm Erica Sargent.
And I'm Rob Johnson. Pressure is mounting for Sterigenics to respond to allegations made by former workers that toxic chemicals were dumped and released into the air for years.
Tonight, these 2 senators and 4 congressmen are calling for immediate action. Here's CBS 2's Dave Savini.
It causes cancer, cell mutation. It's highly explosive.
So you believe that company knowingly sent that chemical out into the atmosphere, knowingly endangering the lives of people?
Yeah, I firmly believe that.
Year after year?
Yes.
These former Sterigenic workers, speaking exclusively to the CBS 2 investigators, have created a firestorm.
Shut them down! Shut them down!
6 federal lawmakers, in reaction to the CBS Chicago report, are calling the workers' allegations disturbing, including the dumping of ethylene glycol.
It would wash right into the drain pit, which went out to the sewer system.
There are allegations of ethylene oxide residue dumping, too.
They would have us hose it down, scrub it out, and then squeegee it right into the drainage pits.
That was just washed also into the public sewer system.
Yes.
Lawmakers are also wanting answers after we exposed allegations of tampering with warning monitors that were supposed to protect workers from high levels of ethylene oxide. A sworn statement from a former worker said there were frequent warnings, but he was repeatedly told to ignore it, not to talk about it, just deal with it or don't work there. It says he was told to just open the doors and let the gas out.
Those who weren't using the mask would have to evacuate the area. However, it happened so many times, you would just blow it off. Be like, just leave the doors open and it'll clear out.
Lawmakers want the company to reveal how many times have these monitors been triggered since 1993. And they want detailed descriptions of past incidents where Sterigenics bypassed pollution control equipment. Also today, village, state, and federal officials who live near Sterigenics called on the EPA to use its authority and shut the company down.
All the EPA testing suggests that we are facing a serious public health threat.
Dave Savini, CBS 2 Investigators.
Sterigenics officials deny all claims made by former employees. They say they operate well within regulatory limits, and shutting it down based on incomplete data taken out of context would set an extremely bad precedent. The statement also points to the U.S. EPA's finding that there are other not yet identified sources of ethylene oxide in the community. A 2 investigators' report on Sterigenics prompts a call for action on the floor of the U.S. Senate.
Ex-employees of Sterigenics came forward and reported to this television station that ethylene oxide was often released directly into the air surrounding the plant through open doors and vents.
Senator Dick Durbin cited a report by our own Dave Savini today in demanding changes at the Suburban Medical Equipment Sterilization Company. Tests at the Willowbrook plant found levels of cancer-causing chemical 350 times higher than what the EPA calls an acceptable risk. Calling this an urgent health crisis, Senator Durbin and Senator Tammy Duckworth today demanded the EPA find a third-party environmental engineering firm to identify a way to reduce emissions.
Also making news, a CBS 2 investigation prompts demands by federal lawmakers tonight for a criminal probe at Sterigenics in Willowbrook. 2 investigator Dave Savini revealed allegations from former workers about toxic emissions being released into the community. Here's Dave with the new calls for action.
I was sicker and sicker and sicker.
From a daycare operator to cancer victims and other Fairfield residents,
It's long overdue.
the Willowbrook-based operation, which uses the gas to sterilize medical equipment, is now getting heat from Washington.
This is music to my ears.
This group of U.S. senators and representatives today called for the EPA to open a criminal investigation into allegations of misconduct raised by former employees against senior management at Sterigenics.
It's hard because I work there. It's hard to sleep at night.
These former employees spoke exclusively to the CBS 2 investigators, claiming warning alarms were rigged, allowing excessive ethylene oxide in the facility.
Those who weren't using the mask would have to evacuate the area. However, it happened so many times, you would just blow it off. Be like, just leave the doors open and it'll clear out.
And they claim ethylene oxide was released into the air without being filtered, along with its residue drained into the environment.
They would have us hose it down, scrub it out, and then squeegee it right into the drainage pits.
That was just washed also into the public sewer system.
Yes.
CBS in Chicago revealed a few days ago that ethylene oxide was often released directly into the air.
On the U.S. Senate floor yesterday, Senator Dick Durbin expressed his concern about what these workers revealed to our CBS 2 investigators.
Without Dave Savini's report, I think we'd still be spinning our wheels.
Lawmakers want the EPA to investigate whether Sterigenics committed any registration violations, which could result in civil and criminal fines.
I want them to unplug, shut down, so they can't do harm anymore.
Jana Konev lives and runs a daycare 7 blocks from the company. In 2015, she was diagnosed with breast cancer. Also, her husband has prostate and bladder cancer. They believe ethylene oxide is to blame.
How many people on your street do you know of that have cancer?
Out of my 4 neighbors directly across the street, 4 households, 3 of them have breast cancer. That's not a coincidence.
Lawmakers also want the U.S. EPA to immediately update ethylene oxide safety standards, audit Sterigenics emissions, and continue air monitoring longer than the current 3 months planned. Sterigenics denies all claims made by the former workers. Dave Savini, CBS 2 investigators.
Breaking right now, the Sterigenics facility in Willowbrook has been virtually shut down by the Illinois EPA. Areas of the plant that use ethylene oxide have been sealed off.
The Illinois EPA wants to stop further emission of the ethylene oxide gas that has been linked to cancer. As CBS 2 investigator Dave Savini reports, this is a hard-fought victory for area residents.
I'm so happy also, yeah.
Residents, once upset, are now celebrating that the governor, through the Illinois EPA, finally shut down the ethylene oxide portion of the plant.
Today we have a victory, and I want to thank the Illinois EPA, the Attorney General Raul, Governor Pritzker for stepping up.
It's an effort to stop the emissions at Sterigenics after numerous test results have come out showing levels of the toxic chemical keep getting higher. Tonight, Willowbrook released its own lab testing, and results showed even greater levels of the carcinogen from around the plant to local schools less than a mile away.
It is a big deal. I think it's affected a lot of people's lives around here.
Julian Glick says he practiced soccer in the fields outside those schools and parks near Sterigenics since he was 7 years old. He was diagnosed with leukemia 5 years ago.
That day you found out, they pulled you out of 6th grade.
I thought I was gonna die. It was a very scary feeling.
He and others have reported numerous cancers, breast cancers, and stomach cancers.
Are you concerned about cancer clusters?
Very much so. Wouldn't you be? There's a middle school that's just near this facility, and the kids are some of the most vulnerable population when it comes to exposure to toxic chemicals.
These two senators and our delegation take this very seriously. This is a public health risk.
Both U.S. Senator Duckworth and Durbin called for criminal investigations. They say claims made by these former workers who came forward exclusively to CBS 2 need to be investigated. The former workers say the company cut corners on public safety.
It's hard because I work there. It's hard to sleep at night.
So how important was it that the whistleblowers came forward?
Incredibly important.
They say they've shared their concerns about cancer clusters and chemicals, especially the risk to children. And they hope anyone who has any information about the alleged mishandling of ETO comes forward.
I'm just horrified by this, and what I want to say to those families is know that the two of us are fighting as hard as we can to provide the oversight.
In a statement tonight, Governor Pritzker says to protect the health and well-being of Illinoisans, his office has been in regular contact with the Illinois EPA to seal the operations off in the Sterigenics plant because the U.S. EPA and the company refused to take the action. Sterigenics has repeatedly denied the allegations former workers made about safety shortcuts, and tonight the company says it has consistently complied with all state regulations and will be analyzing Willowbrook's test results, which it says are inconsistent with prior air samples. Erica and Rob, much more to come because there's still that call for another investigation into wrongdoing.
How long is this part of the plant going to be shut down? Any idea?
Indefinitely, until the EPA decides to open it up again or they get kicked out of the state.
All right.
Okay.
Thank you, Dave.
Now to our other big story. This former Sterigenics worker is the latest whistleblower to come forward and reveal how the company handled ethylene oxide, which, as you may know, is a cancer-causing chemical.
That whistleblower told CBS 2 investigator Dave Savini exclusively what happened in the Willowbrook facility went beyond simple mistakes.
Do you believe there should be a criminal investigation?
100%. More than 100%.
Mike Morales wants Sterigenics investigated for releasing ethylene oxide, a cancer-causing chemical, without being filtered.
When you started there, or at any time, did anyone tell you how dangerous this chemical could be in the form of cancer?
Not that, no, not cancer. They did say it was explosive. Like literally would make a big blow up that whole area.
He says he worked at the company as a forklift driver in the early 2000s while he was in his 20s and fresh out of the military.
I was stupid enough to obey orders because I just got out of the Marines.
One of his jobs, he says, was to clean out sterilization chambers coated in a thick sludge-like residue after medical products were sterilized with ethylene oxide.
We used the hoses out there to clean and then the squeegee, and they would just go into the drain. They just figured we'd just go along with orders.
He says the plant had about a dozen sterilization chambers.
The chambers would run different cycles. They would leak gas a lot of times, swear to God.
And he says he was even told to move a drum filled with the gas outside when it sprung a leak.
It'd have a leak, and we take like this Teflon tape to kind of like stop that leakage.
You're saying there was actually a time where they took a drum that was leaking ethylene oxide and had you put it outside?
There's an outside patio area that is right behind the chambers, and it's hidden from the public.
He says he's coming forward after our CBS 2 investigators exposed allegations from other former workers, including those who gave sworn statements, all claiming the company took safety shortcuts. These are claims Sterigenics denies.
You believe they were sending more of this stuff out their stacks, out their side vents, out their doors than they ever reported to the EPA.
Definitely.
It causes cancer, cell mutation, it's highly explosive.
Morales says he's concerned about the people who live near Sterigenics and have come forward to talk about their cancers.
I feel bad for the people. I feel bad like when I found out about the one that's dying of cancer. He was leaving his 4-year-old son. And that hurt me the most.
He's talking about Matt Haller.
Lost 75 pounds.
Who's battling stage 4 stomach cancer and trying to create a few more memories for his wife and son.
CBS in Chicago revealed a few days ago that ethylene oxide was often released directly into the air.
We went to Washington, where government leaders are now calling for civil and criminal probes.
We do know this. Some chemicals have been tested to cause cancer. Ethylene oxide is one of them.
Both Senator Dick Durbin and Senator Tammy Duckworth want anyone with information about possible wrongdoing involving this chemical to contact authorities.
So how important was it that the whistleblowers came forward?
Incredibly important, and we're also hearing from some other whistleblowers as well. My office has received information.
Duckworth says whistleblowers from the EPA have been coming forward too.
I didn't know about it at the time. Right now I feel really bad. This is why I'm here, to make a difference, to help those people out.
He should not feel guilty about that. He should certainly feel proud that he stepped forward to bring his message.
It was a very vicious cancer, and very painful.
TJ Kelleher lives near the company and wants to know if the gas caused his wife Eva's pancreatic cancer, and wonders about his neighbors too.
I think as a cancer focus, when you have just 150 feet, we have 3 incidences of cancer. This home was what we built. Our children were raised here. And to think that the very thing that she loved the most, this house, could have killed her.
I loved it here, all the memories I had here.
15-year-old Julian Glick spent much of his childhood around Sterigenics, fishing at this pond and practicing soccer on nearby fields, places that are now the site of air testing canisters. In 6th grade, he was diagnosed with leukemia.
Every time I went to the hospital, I just had like a terrible feeling in my stomach, like I don't know if I'm gonna come back. I thought I was gonna die. It was a very scary feeling.
Now in remission and in high school at Hinsdale South, he's recently learned air testing shows elevated levels of ethylene oxide there too. He blames the chemical for causing his illness.
But I am very angry that this could have been totally preventable, and my life could have been a lot better than it is because of the leukemia. It was bad, and it sucks that it was preventable.
Recent U.S. EPA testing and private Willowbrook testing showed elevated levels of ethylene oxide, so much so the Illinois EPA shut down the plant's operations involving the use of the gas in Willowbrook. In federal court Wednesday, a lawyer for Sterigenics argued it's impossible the high levels of ethylene oxide came from the company.
Our U.S. EPA, they've been sitting on their hands for a long time on this, and they have not done a thing about it.
Attorney Tony Romanucci represents Glick and Kelleher. He says the state and federal EPA failed residents and should have conducted all this testing years ago.
They're emitting too much of a compound that causes cancer. They still can't contain it.
And he wants to know if the EPA even knew about these 3 additional warehouses, 2 in Burr Ridge and another one near the main facility in Willowbrook, especially since these whistleblowers say in these warehouses, sterilized product would off-gas. Morales said he worked in one of those warehouses, this yellow one, for a period of time too.
There was not a ventilation room in there whatsoever.
So where did that gas go?
It's going out. It's spreading around.
So you're wearing a gas mask in a building that's just maybe 100 yards away, a few hundred yards away from homes.
Yeah. Yes, sir.
And those people had no idea?
No.
Sterigenics has denied off-gassing at other warehouses and says it follows all regulations. The company says it never intentionally allowed ethylene oxide to be released in any illegal manner and have no record of any leaking EO drum during Mr. Morales' tenure. The company also says neither EO nor ethylene glycol is removed as part of the cleaning of sterilization chambers as Mr. Morales described, and says it was allowed to discharge certain waste materials into the sanitary sewer for treatment. This process was not only authorized but also disclosed to the local sanitation district, and importantly, this authorized practice no longer takes place. Rob and Erica, the lawmakers just keep encouraging more workers to come forward.
Okay, stay on top of it for us, Dave. Thanks.
Matt Haller believed that chemicals released near his home caused his cancer.
To just think that, wake up one day and that this company could have been literally behind my death is, it's shocking. It's utterly shocking.
Under hospice care, Matt's final message.
Good evening, I'm Brad Edwards.
And I'm Erica Sargent. He battled cancer and fought to get the word out about a dangerous chemical coming from a plant near his home.
And before he died, Matt Haller wanted to share a final message with our Dave Savini. Dave?
Brad and Erica, I first met Matt in January. When I learned he entered hospice care last week, I stopped by to say goodbye. But Matt wanted us to get the camera to do one final interview about his fight and the community he loved.
Oh, yeah, oh man, we had some good times.
Two cousins spend time together reminiscing about what was. Years of trips that had them flying high, especially Matt Haller, who dominated the slopes. And here, just last year, Matt even managed to make one more guy's trip to Utah after starting chemo treatments for stomach cancer.
The barrel is empty, and there's not much left, but I'm gonna fight. I'm gonna fight, and I'm gonna fight.
These are pictures of Haller, full of life and thinking about his future, before the cancer ravaged his body.
Oh, I'm down to 100 pounds. I've lost almost 100 pounds.
When we first met Matt Haller in January, he was undergoing chemotherapy. He wanted to speak out because he was concerned his cancer may have been caused by ethylene oxide from this medical supply sterilization company, Sterigenics.
To just think that, wake up one day and that this company could have been literally behind my death is, it's shocking. It's utterly shocking.
As he fought for more government oversight into ethylene oxide emissions, he also struggled to live longer and create a few more memories with his wife Colleen and son Cullen.
My son's 4 years old, and you really wonder, is he going to remember me? I'm not going to be able to teach him how to play hockey, and, so much loss. When you look forward, you just see loss.
2 months after that interview, he wanted to do one more final interview, even though he knew it was hard to see him this way. Though his body was failing, his spirit was full, and his mind was clear.
And they're just trying to keep you comfortable now.
Now I'm just, now it's all about easing into, unknown.
Questions about whether Haller's cancer is linked to ethylene oxide in part dates back 35 years. The CBS 2 investigators obtained this 1984 letter written by the Illinois EPA. It warns the company, then Griffith Laboratories, of cancer dangers associated with ethylene oxide, listing cancers of the pancreas, bladder, brain, central nervous system, and stomach.
Everything needs to be uncovered here. Everything needs to be uncovered.
Haller shared his story hoping someone would listen and investigate the cancer cases in Willowbrook, the community he lived in for 9 years.
Well, my fight has become all about whistleblowers.
He wants more whistleblowers to come forward, like these two former Sterigenics employees who spoke exclusively to us, claiming the EPA did not know the actual amount of ethylene oxide released by the company.
You believe they were sending more of this stuff out their stacks, out their side vents, out their doors than they ever reported to the EPA.
Definitely.
It's hard because I work there. It's hard to sleep at night.
What was your reaction when you finally did see the whistleblowers coming forward to us?
Oh, it was like a dream come true. I couldn't be happier. It's what it's all about for me now. Whistleblowers, whistleblowers. Come forward, tell your story. Tell us what you know. Let's fight this for the community. Please.
Matt Haller's story also prompted a third former Sterigenics worker to come forward.
I feel bad, like when I found out about the one that's dying of cancer. He was leaving his 4-year-old son. that hurt me the most.
Mike Morales spoke about gas leaks at the facility.
The chambers would run different cycles. They would leak gas a lot of times, swear to God.
The fact that Morales spoke out deeply touched Haller.
Thank you for that whistleblower that came forward, because you made a real difference.
He hopes more will come forward.
God forbid they're doing what they say that what we understand they're doing, and they're poisoning this community. Then they need to pay. And I don't mean monetarily. People should be going to jail.
Last month, the state EPA put a seal order on the company, preventing it from using ethylene oxide.
I was exuberant. I couldn't have been happier.
And as we said goodbye to each other...
Thanks, Matt.
Thank you, Dave. You've been great.
Matt wanted to remind us of others who are sick. And as lawsuits have been filed by community members, he wanted to express his concern about ethylene oxide possibly causing cancers in the community. And he wanted to remember people like Catherine Howard, who has stomach cancer, Jana Konev and Jean Hohalter, breast cancer, Petko Konev, bladder cancer, and Julian Glick, leukemia. More reasons why Haller wants the fight for answers to continue.
Sterigenics and their lawyers continue to fight in court to open again.
They're going to fight, so we have to continue to fight too.
Last Saturday, a day and a half after we sat down together, Matt Haller lost his cancer battle. This makes him the first litigant to pass away after filing a lawsuit against Sterigenics. He was 45 years old.
Haller was working with state officials trying to create a Matt Haller law. Although it is not complete, it would require ethylene oxide air testing and mandatory notification when leaks occur. Sterigenics has denied claims made by the former workers and has said they operate well within regulatory limits. There is a link to his family's GoFundMe page to help with his medical bills on CBSChicago.com. What he endured, he's one of the most incredible people I've ever met.
That was just heart-wrenching, and to think he took the time to speak to the very end, Dave.
He wanted to fight for his community, and he wanted to leave something behind.
Yeah, that he did. And his little boy will certainly remember.
What a hero.
Yeah. Thank you, Dave.
Family members call it an everlasting legacy. 45-year-old Matt Haller died in March from stomach cancer. He was concerned a chemical emitted from a local company may have been to blame. Now, a new Illinois law cracking down on cancer-causing emissions is being called the toughest in the nation. The Matt Haller Act requires facilities to limit ethylene oxide emissions by 99.9%. Companies must also undergo annual air tests. Those that fail must cease operations immediately. 2 investigator Dave Savini spoke to Matt before he died and now takes a closer look at his legacy.
Let's fight this for the community, please.
Right until the end, Matt Haller fought for answers about the company down the road from his home, Sterigenics.
To just think that, wake up one day and that this company could have been literally behind my death is shocking. It's utterly shocking.
Haller also fought for more government oversight into ethylene oxide emissions for those in the community, and especially for his wife Colleen and son Cullen.
My son's 4 years old, and you really wonder, is he going to remember me? I'm not going to be able to teach him how to play hockey, and, so much loss. When you look forward, you just see loss.
He would just be so proud and so relieved and so happy.
Colleen and Cullen Haller still live in the community about a mile from the Willowbrook facility. In February, the state shut down the ethylene oxide part of the operation after testing showed high levels of the gas in the air. Matt died the next month of stomach cancer.
I don't want them to ever open again.
Colleen says Matt's goal was always to find the truth. Even a day and a half before he passed away, he was still fighting, urging more whistleblowers to come forward.
Tell your story. Tell us what you know.
And former Sterigenics workers did come forward to the CBS 2 investigators, alleging the company cut corners on safety, alleging it released more ethylene oxide than ever reported to the EPA.
Matt Haller wants greater accountability.
Now the Haller Law will be his legacy.
The point is that they will be regulated more than they ever have before.
It's heartbreaking because I don't want to have to see anybody else go through with what my brother just went through. And I think that having these restrictions is going to change everything.
Matt's brother and wife are also urging anyone else with information on what might have gone on at that plant to come forward. A lawsuit on behalf of Matt Haller and his family has been filed against Sterigenics. Sterigenics has denied all whistleblower claims and says it followed all laws. Erica.
Thank you, Dave. In response to the law, Sterigenics released a statement that reads in part, Sterigenics has been recommending potential emission control improvement options to regulators for several months, the implementation of which would further enhance the control measures at our Willowbrook facility. We believe these measures will not only enable us to comply with the new Illinois law related to EO sterilization facilities, but will also establish our Willowbrook facility as the strongest emission control environment for EO sterilization in the country.
Now to a CBS 2 investigation. Months ago, we introduced you to Matt Haller. He was concerned elevated levels of ethylene oxide near the Sterigenics plant in Willowbrook may have caused his stomach cancer. Now a new Illinois law named for him is in place, requiring toxic air monitoring and notification requirements, the strongest law in the nation.
I felt a lump in my neck and I knew that that was it.
Heather Schumacher is coming forward to tell her story because she believes her cancer is a direct result of ethylene oxide emitted by Sterigenics. For decades, the company used the gas, which is linked to cancer, to sterilize medical equipment.
Okay, I got him.
Heather grew up 3 blocks away from the plant, and in 2007, she was diagnosed with Hodgkin's lymphoma.
My biggest fear is that I will not be around to see my children one day.
She says the newly created Matt Haller law, which puts strict regulations on the use of ethylene oxide, couldn't have come soon enough.
I've melted down to nothing. I've got nothing left.
We spoke with Matt Haller numerous times dating back to January of this year. He lived about a mile away from the plant and got stomach cancer. Haller wanted to know if it was from the ethylene oxide.
Everything needs to be uncovered here. Everything needs to be uncovered.
Haller died in March, a day and a half after this interview. It was a conversation he wanted to have, and even as he struggled physically, he was clear-minded and still fighting. Haller was thankful to the whistleblowers who came forward earlier this year to CBS 2.
Whistleblowers, whistleblowers. Come forward, tell your story. Tell us what you know. And let's fight this for the community, please.
They allege the company cut corners on safety and released ethylene oxide without properly filtering it.
You believe they were sending more of this stuff out their stacks, out their side vents, out their doors than they ever reported to the EPA.
Definitely.
It causes cancer, cell mutation, it's highly explosive.
These former workers said ethylene oxide often escaped the facility. Mike Morales says he witnessed it too during his work there as a forklift operator nearly 2 decades ago.
The chambers would run different cycles. They would leak gas a lot of times, swear to God.
What was your reaction when you heard those whistleblowers talking about ethylene oxide just going out side vents and front doors and side doors?
There's a lot of things that were done that I believe people did not know about because that community would not have tolerated it.
It scares me.
Senator Jim Durkin sponsored the ethylene oxide legislation and named it after Haller.
The point is that they will be regulated more than they ever have before.
My son's 4 years old, and you really wonder, is he going to remember me? I'm not going to be able to teach him how to play hockey, and, so much loss. When you look forward, you just see loss.
He would just be so proud and so relieved and so happy.
Colleen and Cullen Haller still live in the community about a mile from the Willowbrook facility. In February, the state shut down the ethylene oxide part of the operation after testing showed high levels of the gas in the air.
I don't want them to ever open again.
It's heartbreaking because I don't want to have to see anybody else go through with what my brother just went through. And I think that having these restrictions is going to change everything.
What was it about Matt Haller that touched you?
He's a hero. I look at him as a community hero and someone who's advocating for anybody and everybody and who's encouraging people to do what's right.
Schumacher is in remission and suing Sterigenics. In March, the Illinois Department of Public Health released a cancer study. It revealed a 90% increase of her cancer, Hodgkin's lymphoma, during a 20-year period. Sterigenics has denied all whistleblower claims. In response to the law, Sterigenics released a statement that reads in part, Sterigenics has been recommending potential emission control improvement options to regulators for several months, the implementation of which would further enhance the control measures at our Willowbrook facility. We believe these measures will not only enable us to comply with the new Illinois law related to EO sterilization facilities, but will also establish our Willowbrook facility as the strongest emission control environment for EO sterilization in the country.
This young girl has been fighting 2 different cancers much of her life. Her family believes a Willowbrook company emitting a toxic gas in their neighborhood is the cause.
The allegations center around Sterigenics. Her family says they fear she was also exposed to ethylene oxide while attending nearby schools. CBS investigative reporter Dave Savini continues his year-long probe.
She means everything to me.
She is his daughter, Yasmin.
You remember these pictures?
Yasmin's been in and out of the hospital since she was 2.
You weren't feeling too well there, right?
The hospital is where some of her favorite childhood memories were made.
Do you remember this? Who were you there?
Supergirl. Yeah, Supergirl.
The Willowbrook teen celebrated her sweet 16th birthday this summer and is excited about the start of a new school year.
What year are you in?
Freshman.
Oh, a freshman. At what school?
Into South.
What do you have on your shoulders? What is that?
Backpack.
And what does the backpack do?
It's the feeds.
It's your food?
Yeah.
And it feeds you?
Yeah.
After numerous surgeries and treatment for multiple cancers, including leukemia and kidney cancer, she is slowly getting back to solid foods. Her favorite food, pizza.
You have a favorite pizza place?
I like my pizza.
What do you usually pick?
Pesto, sausage, mushroom, sausage, salami, a barbecue drizzle, the diced tomato.
All that on one pizza?
Yeah.
She loves to load it.
Ivan Harrison loves to see her happy, but knows deep down every day she's in pain.
When she was 2, she was initially diagnosed with acute lymphoblastic leukemia, ALL.
A disease he now blames on the medical supply sterilization company down the road, Sterigenics.
Was there a certain thing that happened that was the most painful?
Like maybe putting in my tube, my nose.
No one could ever tell us the cause of why she got leukemia, relapsed, and later got kidney cancer.
Her cancer battles resulted in 2 bone marrow transplants, repeated rounds of chemo, and side effects. It wasn't until high levels of ethylene oxide were found during ambient air testing near their home and all 3 of the schools Yasmin attended that they began to understand what was in the air their daughter was breathing.
It was very surprising to me that a company that was emitting that kind of chemical could even be in an area this residential. I just couldn't even believe how that could happen.
They now believe her cancers are directly related to ethylene oxide emissions.
It is a known human carcinogen.
Dr. Peter Orris is a professor of environmental and occupational health sciences at UIC.
There are very few known human carcinogens that have been accepted by the World Health Organization, by governmental organizations, US EPA, the Europeans. This is one of the few. Some of the others are cigarette smoke, or asbestos.
Everything needs to be uncovered here. Everything needs to be uncovered.
Matt Haller, who gave this interview a day and a half before his death, is one of about 43 litigants whose lawsuits have been filed against Sterigenics in state court, accusing the company of causing cancer. The company has repeatedly denied our request for an interview, but say they followed and outperformed all regulations. In a statement, they told us they intend to vigorously defend against claims and are confident its Willowbrook facility is not responsible for causing illness.
To just think that, wake up one day and that this company could have been literally behind my death is it's shocking. It's utterly shocking.
Questions about whether illnesses are linked to ethylene oxide in part date back 35 years. The CBS 2 investigators obtained this 1984 letter written by the Illinois EPA. It warns the company, then Griffith Laboratories, of cancer dangers associated with ethylene oxide, listing cancers of the pancreas, bladder, brain, central nervous system, and stomach. Haller had stomach cancer.
It's hard because I work there. It's hard to sleep at night.
Since February, the CBS 2 investigators have also been speaking with whistleblowers who claim the company knowingly released the gas into the atmosphere.
The chambers would run different cycles. They would leak gas a lot of times, swear to God.
The plant was shut down in February with a seal order by the EPA, but now is in the process of reopening one day under new restrictions. A law named after Matt Haller requires the company to capture 99.9% of all ethylene oxide used.
Can you go through sort of a list of some of the names of kinds of cancers?
Well, there's leukemias, there's lymphomas.
I believe the chemical from Sterigenics caused Yasmin's leukemia
and I'm going to court, and I intend to prove that.
Sean Collins is Yasmeen Harrison's attorney. He filed a suit tonight against the company on behalf of Yasmeen and says the child's exposure began through her mother, who grew up in the same Willowbrook house they still live in today.
You believe her exposure to ethylene oxide began while she was still in her mother's womb?
Yes, Yasmeen's mother was exposed to ethylene oxide day after day after day after day while she was carrying Yasmeen.
Has it been a painful 13 years?
Yeah.
Her father says no level of ethylene oxide should ever be allowed, and now worries for all the other kids in the area.
It's just too close, and it's exposing too many people, young, innocent kids.
Yasmeen's case is the 44th case we know about to be filed against the company. Sterigenics also says they operate safely and they deny the claims made by the former workers in our reports. Yasmeen is now in remission. What a sweet kid.
Yeah, Dave Savini, thank you. Breaking late this afternoon, Sterigenics is shutting down and leaving town. Despite reaching an agreement with the state EPA, the controversial medical sterilization plant announced it is giving up its fight to reopen here. It could not reach an agreement on its lease and is moving out of southwest suburban Willowbrook. The plant has been closed since February after air quality tests found high levels of ethylene oxide linked to a chemical there. That is a chemical linked to cancer. To investigator Dave Savini first broke this story. You were doggedly on this story for the past year. This is really a stunning move after they put up such a fight to stay reopened there now, but this is exactly what residents want to hear.
What they want, and you're right, this caught a lot of people by surprise. We have been getting messages all afternoon from residents expressing their relief that this move is happening. Over the past year, we've been investigating health concerns, interviewing whistleblowers, and telling the stories of sick adults and sick children.
Has it been a painful 13 years?
Yeah.
Yasmeen Harrison's father, Ivan, says the news of Sterigenics' departure couldn't have come soon enough. In August, he told us no level of ethylene oxide should have ever been allowed to be released by any company, especially in areas near homes and schools. Yasmeen was diagnosed with multiple cancers and went to grade school near Sterigenics. She now attends high school just up the road.
It's just too close, and it's exposing too many people, young, innocent kids.
While his daughter has been fighting leukemia and is now in remission, there are many more who came forward to tell similar stories, like 15-year-old Julian Glick.
Every time I went to the hospital, I just had like a terrible feeling in my stomach, like I don't know if I'm gonna come back. I thought I was gonna die. It was a very scary feeling.
In the 6th grade, he was diagnosed with leukemia.
I felt a lump in my neck and I knew that that was it.
Heather Schumacher also grew up near Sterigenics. She came forward to tell her story because she believes her cancer is a direct result of ethylene oxide emitted by the company. For decades, the company used the gas, which is linked to cancer, to sterilize medical equipment.
Okay, I got him.
Heather grew up 3 blocks away from the plant, and in 2007, she was diagnosed with Hodgkin's lymphoma.
My biggest fear is that I will not be around to see my children one day.
She says she hopes the newly created Matt Haller law, which puts strict regulations on the use of ethylene oxide, will cause other companies to think twice before locating in Illinois.
I've melted down to nothing. I've got nothing left.
We spoke with Matt Haller numerous times dating back to January of this year. He lived about a mile away from the plant and got stomach cancer. Haller wanted to know if it was from the ethylene oxide.
Everything needs to be uncovered here. Everything needs to be uncovered.
Haller died in March, a day and a half after this interview. It was a conversation he wanted to have, and even as he struggled physically, he was clear-minded and still fighting. Haller was thankful to the whistleblowers who came forward earlier this year to CBS 2.
Whistleblowers, whistleblowers. Come forward, tell your story. Tell us what you know. And let's fight this for the community. Please.
They allege the company cut corners on safety and released ethylene oxide without properly filtering it.
You believe they were sending more of this stuff out their stacks, out their side vents, out their doors than they ever reported to the EPA.
Definitely.
It causes cancer, cell mutation, it's highly explosive.
It scares me.
State Representative Jim Durkin sponsored the ethylene oxide legislation and named it after Haller. It is that law that put the toughest restrictions in the country on companies that use ethylene oxide, making it extremely difficult for companies that use it to operate in Illinois.
The point is that they'll be regulated more than they ever have before.
He would just be so proud and so relieved and so happy.
Colleen and Cullen Haller still live in the community about a mile from the Willowbrook facility. In February, the state shut down the ethylene oxide part of the operation after testing showed high levels of the gas in the air.
It's heartbreaking because I don't want to have to see anybody else go through with what my brother just went through. And I think that having these restrictions is going to change everything about it.
Schumacher, a school principal in Barrington, is in remission. She is suing Sterigenics, and so are Julian Glick and Yasmin Johnson. Sterigenics has denied all claims made by the whistleblowers and says it always followed all regulations. Brad, they may be moving, but the lawsuits aren't going away.
Yeah, we don't know where yet. Dave Savini, to investigator on top of this since day one. Good work today. Let's go live now, if we could, to Willowbrook, where government leaders are holding a news conference to discuss Sterigenics' announcement that they are moving. I believe this is State Representative Jim Durkin speaking now. Let's take a listen in.